Now this is the original road, what's left of it, that we had bulldozed in here when we first built that cabin. And you can see we got a big tree across the road here. It has fell down. A lot of times when we come in with the Jeep, we got to saw something like this out of the way. But this is the road, we don't use it much anymore, and we come in that upper road, which we had it bulldozed in a little later on. So we just crawled through that this time. Did you make it?
But we spent some time, you two, you like it.
Yep. Some pretty rugged old mountains. That's steep. Way down in there. Awful steep.
Do you remember where I set that old piece of brake beam back down there?
Yep. Down on that corner.
That's that tree you grandpa figured out one sure corner.
Yep. Right down there?
Yep. Down on that ridge.
Down on that ridge up above those cliffs. Yep, I remember it. I could go right to it right now. Go around the chain. Right up on this ridge right here is where I cut some basswood trees once upon a time to carve. All these big straight, nice, pretty straight trees are poplar, most of them. They make some really good lumber.
About all of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
I believe my road is getting to be neglected here. Come on, I'm going to get you crossing them logs. This will be a pretty good show.
Yeah.
Don't fall.
My foot will slip.
It very well could. It's wet and slick.
I'm sure he ain't going to come out here and clean this out.
Can you make it? Alright, now we're dropping down the hill toward the old home place where my grandpa Lawrence was raised up. And my dad, who's here with me now, spent a lot of time when he was a little boy. And of course I used to come down here a lot when I was a little boy. So we're going to go down here and look at the old Lawrence home place, which is unbelievably mostly still intact. It's getting in bad shape though. You can see grass still growing down here because this at one time was sort of like their backyard. It's pretty rugged terrain, and they used to come in here, I guess, with horses and wagons, and
Yep.
Dad says along the road somewhere there they got one of those big Dodge Power Wagon 4-wheel drive trucks and used it to come in and out of here. But even back in those days, it was a good distance from the main road, and I guess right now it's probably at least a mile from the main road that you have to come in here in a 4-wheel drive or either walk. So we're getting some glimpses down there of the old house. Right there's my heritage. That's where as far back as I really know a whole lot about my family, that's where my great-grandfather lived, and great-grandmother and all their kids. And this old house is...
They made a living here on this farm.
Yep, they had a farm here and they had lots of land. What did they have, about 150 acres or 200 acres?
About 250, 300 acres.
They had 250 or 300 acres and they farmed most all of it and raised their food. And of course they didn't have any electricity or lights, or I guess they used lanterns and candles for lights. Walking around the house. And we got screen wire around the porch there, but that used to be the porch. And it's getting in bad shape, but due to it having a tin roof on it, has saved it. And underneath there, the porch is falling in. Daddy's pointing out the cellar that was under the house, and
Grandmother Lawrence kept the parents there.
So back down under there, there's still shelves. The shelves that my grandma used, it's still there. Of course, I'm sure it was dug out a lot deeper than it is now. Dirt slid into it, but that was their cellar. And it kept things cool down here, so they canned their food, and that's where they kept their food. Say that again.
I remember going to that old spring house and turning the crank on a cream separator. They shipped their cream to Cincinnati, Ohio.
And they sold it?
Yeah.
They sold the cream and shipped it to Cincinnati, Ohio.
And your grandpa.
So where was the spring house?
Down the road below that spring.
They got their water, like here's the house, and down over this hill right here, way down over the hill was a spring. It's still there. And that's where they got their water from.
Below that old spring, they had a spring house about 25 feet away from it. Below the spring, water ran through it, and they kept their milk and everything cold. That was a refrigerator.
Uh-huh.
And they had a cream separator in there. You know.
This building right here, was it here then, or is that something that was built later?
That's something good built.
And then, strangely,
They had an outside toilet, but that wasn't.
Strangely, right over there is a bamboo thicket. And one of my great uncles came down here and planted some bamboo. And it has grown out here in these woods all by itself and has spread. And it's getting some pretty big bamboo in there now.
Right over to the right, there's Grandpa Lawrence with the hogs, the big pen. And he raised hogs right over there.
Over
On the right.
Over here in this area. He had a hog pen.
Raised hogs.
And raised hogs for their food. Well, this is the little bamboo forest that my great uncle planted a few little sticks of bamboo, and it's got pretty big. It must be like 30 feet tall now. So must be a pretty good place for it to grow out here. Alright, this is the cemetery. Back in those days, people had cemeteries, you know, out at their houses in the woods because, you know, somebody passed away. They just didn't have big cemeteries like they have nowadays. So, tell me something about it, Daddy.
One of your grandpa's, let's see, little boy, little girl. I forget what it is.
Wasn't my grandpa's, it was his brother's.
Beulah Lawrence, a daughter, died young. They buried her out here.
So that was Grandpa's sister.
Yeah.
Grandpa Lawrence, my grandpa's sister, which would be my great aunt. And they died when they was little. The way I remember this was Grandpa Lawrence. I remember when I was a kid and I would come here to this cemetery, there's nothing but little rocks marking these graves. And if I remember right, one of the things that Grandpa Lawrence wanted to do before he passed away was to get a marker on this grave right here. Is that right, Daddy?
Yeah.
So before he passed away, he had this this little tombstone put up here.
So there's other people, 4 or 5 other people buried in here that was buried in here when great-grandpa Lawrence bought this farm.
Yeah.
They just got stones for their graves.
So this is Beulah and Clarence Lawrence, the daughter and son of Arch and Virginia C. Lawrence. Died about 1905. In 1907, they would have been